Welcome back to Dining with Diabetes. This is session 3. My name is Marilyn Zink. I'm the Health and Human Sciences educator for Purdue Extension, Scott County. So I've been on with you every week. I've just been in the background. So you'll see my face tonight as I teach with my co-teacher, Gail. And you all have seen Gail. She was there for session 1.
Hello, everyone.
Any housekeeping before we get started?
Yes, one thing, 9 people have returned their pre-surveys. So we thank you for doing that. And if you have not returned your pre-survey, please put it in that, mark it and put it in that envelope and send it back to us. The envelope is addressed and it has a stamp on it. Thanks.
Anything else from anyone?
Yes, my name is Marilyn Nauer, and I had to miss both the first and second session. And I couldn't get up on the Zoom. I tried to click on the little blue entry thing there, and it wouldn't come on, so I had to go to the telephone. So I saw where you are making a video of the first 2 classes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we're recording tonight. So I believe that's going to be sent out. Sarah, I don't know if she's still on here. I think she was sending those links out after the classes. Okay. But if not, feel free to reach out to one of us or we'll get with you to make sure you get that. But yes, okay. So we are recording. They're not going on. I mean, they are going on the internet, but it's just the link is going to participants that had signed up for the class.
Okay.
And I did talk to Marilyn over the weekend, and I did send Sarah Richard a note that Marilyn wanted those recorded programs. So I'll also double check with Sarah about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for attending by phone.
Yeah, I definitely want to attend.
Hi, this is Janet McCadden. I missed the second one. I couldn't get on, but thank you for sending the link so that I could go back and look at the session. I appreciate that.
Right. And for those that are on Zoom, Sarah did put a link to the videos, and Marilyn will make sure that you get those via email.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I hope you all have some exciting success stories to share about our SMART goals. So does anybody want to share our SMART goals? And so I'll do a quick review. And for those that aren't on Zoom, a SMART goal is a goal that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And so after each meeting, we've asked participants to create a SMART goal that they can work on. And that could be as simple as testing blood sugars regularly, deciding to walk 5 or 10 minutes a day, tracking your food intake by journal. So does anybody have a SMART step or goal that they've been working on this past week that they'd like to share about? And I'll invite you to, it doesn't always have to be a success. Maybe you're having some barriers or you're struggling. And so we're here to help you brainstorm and try to overcome those as well. So it doesn't always have to be a success.
Well, this is Nancy. Chuck and I have, of course, we missed last week's session due to a family emergency. But since the first session, we've been working on his checking his blood sugar every morning. And so he has really been working hard at watching his sweet intake, and I've not had a chance to watch the video yet from last week to help us with that, because he has a sweet tooth that is out of this world. And he has done really well. We've even had his blood sugar down to even 95 one morning. So it has, his average has really come down on his morning blood sugar.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I hope you get a chance to watch next week because we did talk about some swaps for desserts and some sweets. So absolutely. And if you have any questions, after you watch that, feel free to reach out to us. And if you have questions, Peggy, I saw that you'd like to share. Did I lose you, Peggy?
It looks like she's muted. I wonder if she doesn't maybe know how to unmute.
Did that do it?
There you are.
I'm here. Okay, one of my goals was to manage my snacking. So what I did was I made a list of what's available here at home, all my snack options. And then when I'm wanting a snack, I instead go to my list, pick out one, and have that instead. So I put like 6 or 7 on there. And it kind of depends on the time of day, whether or not I can have dairy, and I'm on another special diet. So it's worked.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's things like a little bit of chocolate protein drink, 2 inches of banana, and 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. And if I want more banana, I reduce the peanut butter. So it's worked real well.
Great. And I like that you're making those swaps. You talked about if you wanted something else, you kind of balance that out. So making those swaps. And I also like that you inventoried what you have. Oftentimes we kind of overlook what we have and go buy more stuff when we've got things there that we could use. So I think that's great too. Anybody else like to share?
Yeah, there is another one in the chat box there from Missy Denny about her Coca-Cola addiction. She's working on that. 2 giant glasses of water before drinking anything else. Good
That's
job.
awesome. And I love that you said it's getting easier. Yes. Sometimes these things do take time, but what, 21 days to create a new habit. So you're well on your way because we're in week 3. All right. Anyone else? Then you'll have a chance, an opportunity to create a new SMART goal or continue to work on your SMART goal for this week and share next week. So if you didn't have one today or maybe struggling, don't feel bad. You have another opportunity to create a SMART goal and to work on it. Did anybody have any questions from last week? Any burning things that came up after we met? I want to do a quick review of last week for those who weren't here and those who maybe had just crazy weeks and slept. We talked about glucose being fuel that provides our bodies energy, similar to how gasoline powers a car. We know that our bodies turn carbohydrates into glucose, and certain foods like grain, fruits, milk, and some vegetables are better carbohydrates than other foods. We also talked about all foods can fit into our diet, but it's important to keep in mind those recommended serving sizes. We discussed a few ways to estimate the correct serving size. For example, when we're talking about a serving of meat, fish, or poultry, we're looking at about 3 ounces. And so that's about the size of a deck of cards or the palm of your hand. If you're doing like dairy, we talked about 6 cubes of cheese, which is about the size of a dice, is also a serving. so the importance of servings. We also discussed how to use the food label and to determine the carbohydrate content, and we're going to continue that tonight a little bit. So again, carbohydrates equals starch plus fiber plus sugar. And good news, desserts can fit into our diet, but we did talk about that we need to substitute other carbohydrates in our meal if we want to indulge in a dessert. And we also want to keep in mind that desserts are often high in fat, so we shouldn't make them a regular thing in our diet, but it's okay to have them every now and again. We also talked about ways to decrease our carbohydrates in our meals and desserts is to use artificial sweeteners. We talked about several types of sweeteners there are. So that ranges from like our sweet and low, equal, monk fruit. So there's a lot of different ways that we can make that. There was also a question about our artificial sweeteners. Are they safe to use? And they have been approved by the FDA. And I think someone even asked, was there one better than the other? And it really comes down to like personal preference. And then if you're trying to cook something or bake something, some work a little bit better than others. And then we kind of closed out. We talked about flexibility and range of motion exercises you could do. And so you all should have a handout on that. And we talked about doing those exercises at least twice a week. That'll help preserve your range of motion and even improve your range of motion. And even though they're talking about snow, you may be thinking about gardening or doing some yard work. And so it's always good to stretch, and that helps reduce any muscular stiffness that you may have or even prevent muscle soreness. And again, we'll talk a little bit about physical activity today as well. So any questions after the review before I move on? All right, so where we've been, we've talked about what is diabetes. We talked about the carbohydrates and sweeteners. Tonight, we're going to talk about fats and sodiums, and then we're going to put it all together. And as you know, we've been seeing at least one, if not two videos. So you will see another video tonight. So our program goals, just a reminder, is to increase our knowledge about healthy foods, learn healthier cooking techniques. We'll learn basic information about diabetes, nutrition, and physical activity, and share and learn from one another. So we do have some experts in the room, but you also can share your experience too. So, again, we're not trying to, if you have questions, feel free to answer or to ask them, but we're not providing individual prescriptions or meal planning for individuals. We're just giving a general overview. All right. So then today's agenda, we're going to talk about how does diabetes affect the heart. We're going to talk about choosing healthier fats, alternatives to seasoning instead of using salt, moving more to benefit your hearts and lungs. Again, you'll have an opportunity to set a SMART goal or continue working on the SMART goal that you started from week 1. And then we'll have that food demonstration. And tonight we're going to talk about main dishes. So I think you'll really like the video that we have in store. All right.
Okay, I am with you. I was just kicked off briefly. So that was so rude. darn internet. Anyway, Marilyn was talking about snow earlier, and I'm originally from Iowa, and they did have some snow yesterday. So I told them they could keep it. We didn't really need to have that. Another thing I'm going to do is, while I'm up and running in the internet, under everyone, I'm going to go ahead and type in my email address. Go ahead and send that out. And I don't know if Molly Marshall, if she's still on. Molly and I are both registered dietitians, and if someone had some specific questions related to nutrition, they could email us at a later date. And especially if you're reviewing some of the slides or the PowerPoint from the past 2 weeks and you've got some questions, I can understand where you may not have questions right now, but you might in another day or so. Okay, so yes, diabetes can affect all parts of the body: heart, brain, kidneys, eyes, feet. And if we were to remember session 1, we talked about the whole body being a vascular system. With folks with diabetes have double the risk, so 2 times the risk for heart disease, and regarding stroke, 2 to 4 times the risk for increased risk for stroke if you have diabetes. And, think of, we do these analogies. Earlier, Marilyn was talking about fuel, glucose, carbohydrate, fuel for the body, just like gasoline is fuel for the car. Well, our body is a vascular system. Think about the plumbing in your home, okay? And what happens if you have a clog in one of your pipes? They burst, right? Or something gets clogged up and it doesn't go through. The body is in a way kind of the same way. So we're one big plumbing system. And but if you think of it, why does the high blood glucose affect all of these body parts that are listed here? Well, for one thing, with high or elevated blood glucose levels, it decreases the elasticity of our blood vessels. Our blood vessels, again, being the plumbing of our body. We get the narrowing of the blood vessels, the clogging, the narrowing. So we don't have as large of a surface. Think about a PVC pipe, and as gunk gets built up, it becomes more and more narrow. So then the plumbing, whatever you're pushing through, your plumbing has a harder time going through. Same thing with narrowing of your blood vessels. Then of course that impedes the blood flow. And if you're going to impede the blood flow, then you're going to have a decrease in the amount of blood, nutrients, oxygen. Oops, that's okay. Going on down through your body. Thank you. And then also, you also have an increased risk for damage to the blood vessels, as well as elevated blood pressure. So right here, yeah, Marilyn just changed the slide, and you can see that plaque is getting built up. And so it's causing that blood flow to not go through as quickly, which then causes your heart to pump harder. Okay, and that's where you're ending up with that elevated blood pressure as well. So this is a really good model showing you that blockage, showing you hardening of your blood vessels. Remember that decrease in elasticity, increased blood pressure goes right along with it. And also you can have actually a defect in your cells with the high blood glucose level. Actually decreases what we call a vasodilator, which is nitric acid. So that elasticity, that dilation of your blood vessels, that neuropathy that can occur. Neuropathy is where your actual nerves are being damaged, and blood glucose contributes to that. So it's kind of a, one thing starts and it just kind of can continue, unless you start to make some changes in your lifestyle, some of your habits, which it was great to hear some of your smart steps earlier today on how you're making some of those changes. Let's see, Marilyn, I don't know if I can change it. I think if you can go to the next slide, please. There you go. Thank you. So one thing you can do, obviously, is select more unsaturated fats. So there are things like monounsaturated fats. A real popular, common monounsaturated fat would be something like your olive oil, which can help lower the LDL. And if you remember, the LDL called your bad cholesterol or your lousy cholesterol. It can be olive oil, canola oil, a lot of dry roasted, unsalted nuts are going to be high in unsaturated or monounsaturated fats. So these are healthier types of fats. Flaxseed, well, actually, when we go down to the polyunsaturated, your flaxseed, walnuts, some of your salmon, tuna, some of your seafood's going to fall into here. So you under unsaturated fats, you have monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. So all of those different types of oils and fats that I just talked about are going to be healthier options. Okay, Marilyn. Okay, no matter though, if it's a healthy fat or an unhealthy fat, they're all still high in calories. So 1 tablespoon of fat, if you were to pour a tablespoon of fat on salad, or if you're going to pour that into a pan to fry something, I see a question there, and let me finish. I'll get that question here in a second. They're going to be about 14 grams of fat per serving, no matter the type of fat, and 120 calories. So the question was, healthier, are there nuts that are better than others or any that are bad? Overall, nuts are pretty good. They're pretty rich in vitamin E. They're rich in healthy types of fats. Also can contain fiber and a protein source. I'll share with you, there have been some really wonderful studies with walnuts, helping to lower the bad cholesterol, increase the good cholesterol. So just to give you an example of something that I do, if I have oatmeal, I will add some diced or chopped walnuts to my oatmeal, kind of taking a good food and making it better. Sliced almonds, whole almonds are great, but peanuts have value too. Of course, the better thing to do would be the drier roasted, or staying away from even the extra salt. We're going to talk about salt later, but you can buy unsalted nuts. Definitely staying away from maybe like the honey roasted, definitely. What else do they have? What they do these days, they flavor them, they sugar coat nuts, they chocolate coat nuts. So nuts by themselves are really a very nice option and a good healthy snack. Okay, next slide. Limit the saturated fat and cholesterol. Well, remember, first of all, with cholesterol, your body produces it through your liver. So, cholesterol is necessary. It helps to form our cells and our hormones. It's when we get too much of it that it becomes an issue. And same thing with saturated fat. Like saturated fat, if you're eating meat or maybe some higher fat dairy products, it's going to have some saturated fat. It isn't you have to totally abstain from it. It just means, you can have it. You do want to abstain from too much of it though. So you just need to be careful. There are fattier types of meat, for example, ribs on the grill. Okay, so ribs are going to be a higher fat meat. A porterhouse steak, a steak with a lot of marbling throughout the meat, is going to be higher fat, versus something like a pork tenderloin is going to be fairly lean, as well as like a chicken breast is going to be lean. And of course, staying away from coating it and deep fat frying it. Butter is going to have cholesterol in it and saturated fat. Now, cholesterol comes from animal products. Okay, so we produce cholesterol in our livers, and as well, it's naturally in animal products too. And eggs, and I see that someone asked a question about eggs. I keep hearing conflicting information about eggs. Some say they are great, others say limit. Even when I worked with heart patients, cardiac patients, we would say 3 eggs a week. Those were folks who had already had like open heart surgery. I mean, eggs are definitely a healthy option. They have vitamin D in the yolk. Yes, they do contain cholesterol. The egg white itself is virtually, protein, and that's about it. So it's, I wouldn't say necessarily have an egg a day, but you can definitely incorporate those into your diet. And an egg runs about 80 calories as well, and it's a very good protein source. One thing I wanted to mention about the saturated fat is that if you have a lot of saturated fat, really the saturated fat, where we get into trouble is when we start eating a lot of really high fat products, dairy products on a regular basis, or you're eating a lot of extra fried foods. That's really where we're getting into bigger trouble. And the saturated fat can block the LDL receptors on our cells, so it keeps the bad cholesterol floating around in our bloodstream. Okay, the trans fats. This is almost a kind of a thing from the past. June 18th of 2018, the law came through that trans fats were phased out. So really now food producers are needing to totally refrain from using trans fats. So we're getting close to 3 years ago that law passed, where they phased out the use of that. But the problem with trans fats is that they kind of acted like saturated fats in our body, so it helped to increase the bad cholesterol, the LDL. A lot of us probably remember the days of the partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, and that was high in trans fats. But trans fats, basically, they were relatively inexpensive fat to use in cookies and crackers and chips and, oh my goodness, all kinds of things. Trans fats were in a lot of food products that we bought. But really, those are kind of a thing of the past. Okay, let's take a look at the healthier choices of fats and oils. This is a really nice little guide for you. Look at that lard, bacon, bacon fat. Yes, of course. You know what? The one thing about fat, it really helps to make a product taste good, make it tender. If any of you have ever baked with lard, like a pie crust, and it's so flaky, there's definitely a reason. So it's just that over time, things have changed where we do try to use some healthier options with our cooking. But it wasn't all that long ago where it was common for people to have a can of bacon grease nearby their stove, right? So I think a lot of us actually remember that, and it's probably still happening, but not as much. Again, going down and using other vegetable oils or olive oil, canola oil, those are all going to be really good options. I'll just let you know, fat-free margarine, not the greatest product, not the greatest tasting product. And if you were to ever try to melt it in a pan, I think the number one ingredient's water. So you definitely wouldn't want to use it in something like, a baked product. You're just not going to have a good product. Same thing with reduced fat margarine. I know frequently I purchase like a Blue Bonnet Light in a tub, but I don't bake with it. So just different options out there. I know I made a batch of brownies not too long ago, and instead of doing I think it was a half cup oil, I think I put in a half cup of applesauce, did that different change. Now the product isn't as good. The end product isn't as good. Nothing beats a nice fudgy brownie, and this is more of a spongy, cakey brownie, but hey, I ate them all anyway. So, but still, I like my sweets too. So I totally relate to all of you. I understand. I know right now that coconut oil is very, very popular with like the keto diets. And I personally have a high cholesterol. I'm not going the route of a coconut oil. I don't need that saturated fat. I just want to have some caution out there. It's neither a superfood nor is it poison. I know it's popular. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's a superfood or it's poison. I'm making the decision for myself, even though I have a very high HDL, good cholesterol. I need to watch my total cholesterol and my LDLs. Yes, someone mentioned the black bean brownies as well. You can substitute, you mash up black beans from a can and use them in brownies as well. So all different kinds of tricks to the trade. You might notice a difference though in taste and texture. Any other questions? Let's see.
I'll just say if you make the black bean brownies, they are a little heavier and cakier. And if you put a pinch of soda, like baking soda in it, it will help calm your stomach. So it'll lessen the end result.
I guess you're increasing the fiber intake as well. High fiber brownies, right? So yeah, that's a good point, Marilyn, that you just made, since you are increasing the fiber content, increasing the protein content as well. Okay, let's take a look at some other healthier choices when we talk about low-fat dairy products. Now, I personally have been drinking skim milk for years. I will still have people refer to skim milk as blue water. Now it's an acquired taste. I grew up on 2% milk, but probably sometime in college, I switched over to skim milk, and I'll just tell you that was a long, long time ago. So if you are currently drinking something like whole milk and you went from whole milk to skim milk, you are going to think it is just awful. So what we recommend people do is that they kind of wean themselves down. There's whole milk, 2%, 1%. Yes, you can do a mix of a skim and a 1%, but you kind of take yourself down to that level, and then you won't be calling it blue water, perhaps. I will tell you, I've had many clients who have said that they've tried to trick maybe their spouses by having a 2% container and filling it with 1% or filling it with skim milk. So I'm just giving you some more tips that I've heard, that I've learned from other people who have tried things. Low-fat cheese can be an option. Of course, there's the mozzarella low-fat part skim cheese. Usually when I'm buying like ricotta cheese, going with the skim, the lower fat. Feta has a lower fat. The thing with, you can go lower fat, or also if something is maybe grated or finely shredded, you could get the higher fat, but because it's grated or finely shredded, it can go really a long way. So 2% milk, oh, it's not low fat, it's about 37% fat. So it's really technically not low fat. 2% milk is 2% of the dry milk solids. It has nothing to do, percentage-wise, it actually should not be called low fat, but because it's really 37% fat. Low-fat cheese, though, going back to that, I kind of like that fat-free margarine. I really don't recommend fat-free cheese. It's not pretty when it melts. And it seems more like plastic, like the wrapper it comes in, so I've not had super luck with low-fat cheese. Evaporated skim milk is another really nice option, though. There's a refrigerated cheesecake that I make, and I can use sugar-free lemon jello in it and the skim evaporated milk, and it's a really nice cheesecake. There I go talking about desserts again, but just options out there for us. And then the string cheese is usually a nice option. That's a good healthy snack, has some protein in it, a low fat, kind of fun to eat. So, these are also good snack ideas. Same thing with your yogurts. something, yogurt is all over the board these days. Some of them are really high in sugar. You need to kind of take a look at food labels. There's the Greek protein or the Greek yogurt, which is going to be higher in protein. Now, again, some folks with texture, they don't like the thicker style of yogurt. So again, it's personal choice. There's also Kroger has a brand out there called Carb Master, which is going to be higher in protein and lower in carbohydrate. Like it might have about 4 grams of carb, but a much higher protein level. So, and it's not as thick as Greek yogurt is. But you really got to kind of take a look at some of the food labels when you're looking at the yogurts. They're kind of all over the place, especially since they tried to make, when yogurt first came out years ago, it was plain yogurt and it, kind of had that sour taste. So to make it to where everybody wanted to buy it, well, we add sugar, right? And we add flavorings, and we went all over the place with yogurt. Yes, you can freeze yogurt too. Sometimes I'll do that to make my own ice cream, yogurt ice cream. Also, there is a Carb Master ice cream out there. I know Annette Lawler, our colleague who was also on this call, a couple of years ago, we were doing an in-person Dining with Diabetes, and we actually served the Carb Master vanilla ice cream with our dessert. And I thought it was pretty tasty. So again, looking at those lower carb options. Okay, food labels. I was just mentioning those, taking a look at, I'll be real honest with you, a lot of times people say, oh, I get so confused by these nutrition facts, these food labels. A lot of times I recommend the first thing you look at is what's a serving size, not your size, but the real serving size. Okay, because I know I have problems scooping out a real serving size of ice cream. And I don't think I really have ever consumed a real serving size of ice cream, which is like half a cup. So there's the real size and then there's the Gale size. So just being honest with yourself, okay, here's 1 cup. It's telling me there's 12 grams of fat. And then you can take a look at how much saturated fat's in there, down to the cholesterol, the total carbs. This is probably, it's a fairly high carbohydrate food, so it looks like it might be a mac and cheese, perhaps a box of Kraft mac and cheese or something like that. And trans fats, like I said earlier, those should be bye-bye. So we really shouldn't be seeing those anymore. But just starting to take a look at the food label and what's the story that it's telling us. And take a look at that serving size is the number one thing. I think we've all probably consumed half a bag of something. and then you take a look at the serving size, and you're like, oh, I just ate 4 servings. So anyway, we've all been there. We understand. Okay, next, please. Okay, so this could be then, here's the new food label showing 8 servings per container, 230 calories, I believe, is in this product. And I'm not sure what this product is, but here's a nice lower version of saturated fat, only 1 gram. Here's, oh, Molly just typed in 1 cup of milk has 5 grams of fat. 3 grams saturated fat. And that's where you're getting into that. It's really a 37% fat food product. So I'm just wondering how many of you are starting to take a look at food labels. It's not a bad idea to start when you're in your home, looking at your cupboards and starting to read the food labels there to see what you already have. A lot of times when I was working with cardiac aftercare, they would frequently talk about going to the grocery store and how they would spend like 2 hours or so because they're reading all these food labels, and it can be pretty overwhelming. So, just maybe even starting to review what you currently have in your home and starting to make some alternative choices, like instead of the higher fat dairy, going to a lower fat dairy. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yes.
If you go back and it says that that's a healthier choice, but there's 37 grams of carbohydrates, which I would think that would be awfully high for a diabetic.
Well, no, it depends. First, I don't know. Do we know what this product is? It doesn't state. Let's see. Yeah.
I mean, that just looked like a high carb. I mean, it's got more carbs in it than.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. So it depends on what the product is. It's actually 64% carbohydrate, but it also, you have to also remember it has 37 grams of carb, but each of us has different carbohydrate allotments that work best for our bodies, and we don't necessarily on a general class specify like what you should be having, but it could fit into your daily plan. I just don't think we know what this product is. Does any of our colleagues know actually what this item is? It says 8 servings per container, 230 calories.
The one before is like alludes to mac and cheese.
Yeah, because there's a photo and
right, but this one, no.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is, but so I guess I'm saying it depends what it is. And then it could fit into your diet. I mean, if again, I'm not going to give a recommendation for how many grams you should be having per meal, because that depends on you and your doctor and your blood glucose levels, how they're doing. But if I'm having 45 grams of carbohydrate in a meal, I could fit this in. So it just depends on your overall needs and what this is.
But Gail, some people get the feeling that a person with type 2 diabetes should avoid carbohydrates, and carbohydrates, don't they provide fuel for your body? That's not necessarily true.
Yes, I remember, yes, that is, sometimes people are fearful, they have diabetes and they're fearful of carbohydrates, but carbohydrates run your heart, your nerves, and your brain. It's the fuel you put into your body. So carbohydrates definitely need to be consumed, and they definitely are part of a healthy diet. So this could very well be a part of a healthy diet. And I can tell just because it only has 3 grams of protein, I mean, this is a starchy food. I just don't know what it is. And I'm going to share a couple food labels with you. I guess I could do that right now, because the next slide is going to be about sodium. So I've got a couple of food labels. I could do that right now, I guess. Is that going to work out?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Gail,
Yes.
I think the problem might be the heading on the slides where it says healthier choices, but the last slide and the next slide also say that. So I don't know if that label is actually saying that's a healthy choice. Like that could just be any label. That might be the confusion.
Yeah, because it can be any label. I just don't know what it is. But I'll share with you. Here's good old oatmeal. So when you take a look at oatmeal, all right, so, and this is just great value, old-fashioned 100% whole grain oats. So when you look at it, there's my serving size, 1/2 cup dry. And I always buy it in the canister. I don't buy instant oatmeal. I look at it like any oatmeal's instant oatmeal. This is a real common breakfast for me, is I just take a 1/2 cup and put it in the bowl and add some water to it, and I put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. That's my instant oatmeal. So I take it right out of here. It has, okay, so 1/2 cup is a serving, is 150 calories. It's 27 grams of carbohydrate. Now, it's also very, very high in whole grains. So this is a really good food to have. You know, I mean, I look at like all food as being good. I hate to classify food as good or bad, but oh, look at you. There you go. Okay, so I just want to share that it has 4 grams of fiber, and it also has 5 grams of protein. And this is really good food. You need to get in about 48 grams of whole grain every day. And this alone, this 1/2 cup serving of oatmeal is going to give you 16 grams. Okay, so that's really good, very high in nutrients, very filling. That's another good thing about a whole grain food. It's going to be filling. Now, sometimes to make it a little bit even more nutritious, add a little bit more punch to it, I'll do a couple different things. One, I'll take maybe a teaspoon or tablespoon of peanut butter, and while my hot oatmeal is sitting there and I'm getting ready to eat it, I'll stir it in, or I'll put in the diced walnuts with cinnamon, or I might do, let's see, right now I've got some frozen blueberries, so I'll throw blueberries in there and cinnamon. So it's taking a really great breakfast and making it even better. And this has 27 grams of carbohydrate in here, good fuel for your body, and 16 grams of whole grain. Okay, a bowl of Cheerios. I think Cheerios is like a cup is a serving, either 3/4 or about a cup of regular Cheerios is a serving. And that has, I believe, about 20 grams of whole grain in it. So another really good option. Another cereal, which I don't know how many of you are familiar with Uncle Sam cereal. And this has been around for a long time. It's actually been around since 1908. It has 4 ingredients in this cereal. Now, I live in Corydon, and I don't know if I can buy it here in Corydon. I would probably have to ask the store to bring it in, like bring it into our JC or our Walmart. And Uncle Sam has 11 grams of fiber per serving. It's very rich in omega-3 fatty acids. When it first came out, the package used to call it a natural laxative. As you can understand, 11 grams of fiber in a serving. But now they really promote it as the omega-3. Okay, so, but only 4 ingredients. So it's really a neat cereal. If you taste it for the first time, it's not going to be sweet, you know, but it's going to be, I think it has a bit of a nutty flavor to it. So that might be something that you might want to try. So there's oatmeal, Cheerios, Uncle Sam's cereal. And then one other food label I have with me, this is the Extreme Wellness tortillas. And they're pretty good sized tortillas. So if you wanted to like scramble up an egg and maybe saute some spinach, you can make a breakfast burrito. Or if you wanted to put in maybe some tuna or some turkey, you could make a wrap with it, include some other vegetables like chopped up carrots, my goodness, spinach, romaine lettuce, make a wrap, really nice wrap with it. Now, Extreme Wellness, it's high fiber, 50 calories in this one tortilla. And it has, let's see, 11 grams of fiber. And so I think somebody brought this up last week about the net grams of carbohydrate. So the total carbohydrate is 15 grams in this tortilla. The total fiber is 11 grams. So right here, let's see, I'm looking for it on the food label. I believe they talk about it, the net, yeah, right here. The net is going to be 15 total carbs minus 11 grams of the fiber. So you have 4 net carbohydrates in this tortilla. Okay, so if a food has greater than 5 grams of fiber, then you can do that net carb. Okay, so maybe you've gotten some ideas on things that you can look for in the grocery store. I can purchase these at Walmart in Corydon, at the JC, so they're pretty common. I actually think I bought a double pack at Sam's, so that might be something that you all want to look for. Uncle Sam's cereal, the Extreme Wellness, tortillas, of course, Cheerios, and good old-fashioned oatmeal. Okay, those were the labels I was going to share. Do we have any questions from anybody? Let's see. It's unusual that I have never had a discussion with my doctor about what I should be eating carb-wise. Well, I can kind of understand that in a way. I would suggest maybe bringing it up. How often do you go to your doctor's appointment and maybe have a list with you of questions? And that could be one of the questions that you ask the doctor or the nurse, or also you can always reach out to a registered dietitian. But that would be a really good question for your doctor or the nurse. And of course, a registered dietitian would be happy to help you as well. Okay, I think we're all set. Okay, so sodium in the diet. If you eat a lot of processed foods, a lot of fast foods, you're going to get a lot of sodium. There's just no way around it. The average American diet takes in about 3,400 milligrams of sodium, but I certainly have seen much, much higher intakes over the years. Your goal is to get to about 2,400 milligrams of sodium. So 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of salt is going to have about 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So a great goal would be to be, 1,500 milligrams to 2,400 milligrams of sodium. Okay, so we know that salt is kind of an acquired taste, and it's also one of those habits that we develop. Like if you are used to sitting down at the table, you haven't even tasted your food yet, and you just grab the salt shaker like it's an automatic habit and start salting, you're probably getting in well above the 2,400 recommended. And if you taste something, and if you're a heavy salter and you taste something that you haven't salted, usually you're going to say yuck, like, ooh, But like Marilyn said before, it takes about 21 days to have that change in your taste buds. And if you were to go back and taste something really salty, you would be going yuck about that. So same thing with fast foods. When you're at a fast food restaurant and you're watching them make those French fries in the deep fat fryer, and you're watching them take that old salt shaker and go heavy, and then folks are adding more salt on top of that. So just for you to be aware, well, what's the big deal about sodium? Well, remember going back to the first slide when I first talked about your body being a vascular system, it's about plumbing. You're not helping that vascular system out. Definitely don't want to be raising your blood pressure. You definitely want to keep your kidneys healthy. Remember, your kidneys are filtering about 120 quarts of blood a day. So you're just trying to help the process, help the body, and just trying to stay heart healthy and keep the blood vessels as healthy as possible. Okay, healthier choices. Marilyn, I forgot when you're going to start. Is it with the seasonings? I can't remember.
Yeah, or I can pick up here. It's fine.
Okay, I'll let you go ahead.
So what do these foods have in common? Anybody?
They're salty.
Yes, you are right. Yeah, and according to the CDC, 40% of salt in American diets are found in these 10 foods. So again, when Gail was talking about, maybe starting at home, I'm not diabetic, but I do try to watch my weight, and every now and again I'll try the new fad diet. And so I've been that person in the store reading the labels, a shopping trip that should take 20 minutes takes 2 hours, like she was saying. But this is a good place to start. Open your fridge, open your pantry, see what foods. Do you have these 10 foods in your house? So we've got the breads, the rolls, the cold cuts, cured meats, even our deli packaged pizzas, fresh and processed poultry, soups, sandwiches, cheeseburgers, cheese in general, pasta dishes, not including macaroni and cheese, any of our meat mixed dishes such as meatloaf, tomato sauce, and then any type of snacks, whether it be chips, pretzels, popcorn. So again, that might be a SMART goal for you this week, is to go through your pantry, open up your refrigerator, and just kind of take a note, see how much sodium is in some of these items.
Marilyn, there was a question about the chicken breast on there. Some of those chicken breasts that you purchase have been injected with like a water saline solution. So just to be aware of that.
And again, a good place to look is our food nutrition label. And so this is that macaroni and cheese again. This actually has the picture, so no, no confusion about what that is. And you'll see on there the sodium. So it's under the cholesterol in that like yellow shaded box. It's the last one. So there's 470 grams of sodium in this product. And like Gail said, you want to keep in mind that you really want to limit your sodium intake to 1,500 milligrams per day. And so this is based on a 2,400 diet. So think about, so I'd challenge you this week, kind of look at some of your labels in your pantry, your refrigerator, and see maybe next time when you go to the grocery, how can you make some of those? Is there a swap that you can make to have some lower sodium? And again, the new nutrition facts label lists the sodium the same way as the original label. So you'll see it there. It just isn't shaded. It's in that like second section. So really not a big difference. So Gail even talked about that, when we go out to eat, and I love the visual of the salt shaker with the fries. So one way we can kind of curb some of that is preparing food at home. And it's definitely one of the best ways to begin cutting back on sodium, as well as just unhealthy fats or hidden sugars and things. And so there's many options other than salt for flavoring. And I'm going to pause for a second. You guys can see on the screen. Does anybody, what do you use at home that other flavoring options that you use instead of salt?
Lemon juice.
Mrs. Dash, Mrs. Yeah. Rosemary. Okay.
Lemon juice.
Lemon juice. Yes. Parsley. Cilantro.
Plain old pepper and sea salt. Is it better than regular salt?
It's kind of like fats. Fats, fats, salt, salt. So.
Oh, well, sounded good.
Same
Go ahead.
garlic salt too. People will say, oh, I use garlic salt. Well, 240 milligrams of sodium in this. So a lot of these seasonings you do have to use some caution with as well.
And if you're a Pinterest person, and maybe you're not, I mean, there's a lot of, I know here at home, we've really tried to reduce the amount of prepackaged like taco seasonings, chili seasonings, those types of things, because they do have a lot of sodium, and many of them have sugars in there too. And so you can do like Google search and look for recipes. Even some of our other extension partners throughout the country, they have ideas of how to make your own seasonings. Hot sauce, we use a lot of hot sauce in our house. But yeah, I love that some of you guys are already using fresh herbs. And so again, instead of that salt, we can use spices and herbs, whether they're dried or fresh. Does anybody have an herb garden that they use?
I do.
That's awesome.
I wanted to point out too, when you said garlic salt, you can use garlic powder if the label says on it that there's no salt added, or you see that there's no salt.
It just, like you said, it really, you've gotta take some time and look at those labels. All right. So when we start maybe experimenting with using herbs and spices, I know it can be a turnoff to some, maybe just because of recipes you've had in the past. Maybe people season heavy. And I know even cilantro, even though it was listed, some people say it has a soapy taste. So I would caution and say just use small amounts when you're trying new herbs or fresh herbs. And if maybe you don't have a green thumb, but you want to try some fresh herbs, I have Kroger, and I know I've definitely seen them at Kroger and JC. They have them they're like with the lettuce and stuff. They have them in prepackaged already. So I can't speak to Walmart. If anybody can, let me know. But that's a good way to maybe try some different things. And so again, use that small quantity. We talked about maybe you want to make a dip or something. So you can use a low-fat cream cheese and add some of those fresh herbs and spices in there to give it flavor versus the salt. So I talked about, starting small, and you may be wondering, what is that? So about a fourth of a teaspoon per 4 servings. And of course, you can always increase the quantity. You can't take it away. If something gets too much, you can't take that away. And then if you're like my mom, she did that one time. She tried to water the chili down, and then you just had a lot of bad chili that tasted bad. So if you're using fresh herbs, you want to triple the amount so you can get the most flavor. Herbs should be added towards the end of cooking though, because it takes less time. They don't need to cook since they've already been through. If you're using fresh herbs, cooking them towards the end will help the flavor stay intact and it'll avoid overcooking. And so I think, again, just caution you to read your labels carefully when you're buying mixes. Encourage you to look for maybe how to make your own. So a lot of them, it's not very difficult to do. And you might even have a favorite seasoning and you can knock it off. Take the ingredient labels and kind of experiment and make your own too. That's something we've done here. All right. And then just be careful when you're choosing salt substitutes. Commercial salt substitutes are made from potassium chloride. And so this type of substitute isn't safe for all people, particularly if you have kidney problems. Large amounts of potassium may be dangerous. So make sure you talk to your doctor before using a salt substitute that may contain the potassium chloride. You'll also remember that salt substitutes may still contain some sodium. So again, check your nutrition label. And anything else about that?
No, they mentioned Mrs. Dash, which is great. And just like you said, fat is fat. Onion salt, sea salt, garlic salt. Yep, salt. All salt. Okay, here we have the Idaho plate method again. We showed you this, I believe, for the first time, maybe last week. A great way to kind of help us out with one of the hardest parts of following a good, nutritious, healthy eating plan is portion size. So this again is just taking that plate, typically about a 9-inch plate, not a platter, and dividing it down the half, and then half of it's going to be your non-starchy vegetables. That could be green beans. It can be asparagus, which is really good this time of the year. Staying away from your corn, your beans, see over there on the bread starch grain area, that's where maybe your baked potato can fit, or you're having some rice or macaroni and cheese, and then your protein fits right there. Matter of fact, I brought, just to show you a size, we keep talking about size of a deck of cards. Here's my hand. I don't have a super large hand, but there's that hamburger patty fitting right there in the palm of my hand. And just to show you, this is a chicken breast. And this is 3 ounces of a chicken breast. Again, fitting right there in the palm of my hand. So, when you go to the store these days, matter of fact, Annette and I, we were commenting on the recipe that we made to do the demo today. The chicken breasts were huge. They were no way this size. They were, oh my goodness, 4 times this size, if not more. And so going back to that deck of cards, or what fits in the palm of your hand. And then there's your low fat dairy products, your milk, again, lower fat being more like the 1% or the 2% or the skim, and then your fruit, like a half a cup fruit. So really good way to kind of help visualize how much should I be eating, which really is key, how much. Okay, main dish considerations. So making sure that you do limit the fat, less saturated fat. Again, a pork tenderloin or pork loin is going to be less fat than the ribs. Healthier types of fats, olive oil, canola oil, limiting your sodium, choosing healthier alternatives to the salt seasoning. We didn't make this recipe for this evening, but there's a fantastic fish recipe. I believe we use cod and fresh dill and lemon, and you put it in foil packets and you bake it. And Annette and I have made that for several Dining with Diabetes classes, and it's fantastic. It like melts in your mouth. And we didn't add any extra sodium to it. So just another thing that you can try, and you're going to have that recipe in your packets under main dishes. Okay, so about balance, and balance includes great tasting, healthy foods, getting your medical checkups, checking your A1C, taking your medications, checking your blood glucose, and of course, moving your body. So physical activity, definitely a part of your daily routine. You know, the weather today was fantastic. It was probably 68 degrees or so. I think by tomorrow morning, we're going to be in the low 30s. It could be snow, you know, and then hopefully this season of sprinter will be over. Sprinter being the combination of spring and winter. I think it needs to come to an end. And let's get outside. Let's do our gardening. Let's do our stretching before we garden. And let's go and do some cardio activity. So cardiovascular exercise, that is where we use our large muscles. And you're going, well, what's my large muscles? Well, where are they? Okay, so your quadriceps, which would be the front of your thighs, are going to, that's a large muscle. Your hamstrings are in the back of your thighs. The good old gluteus maximus, okay, that's your hind end. That's a big muscle. Believe it or not, there's a big muscle there. And when you move those three large muscle groups, that's a great way to get that heart rate going. Move your arms. That's going to help get that heart rate going as well. And at least we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago when I did the lecture about, you know, start where you are today. If you're not a walker, you know, typically walking is free. You know, you do want to get a good pair of shoes, but if your baseline is at 0, start with 2 minutes, work your way up, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doing 3 10-minute bouts per day, working up to maybe where you can do 30 minutes straight or longer. And let's just get through this weather spell that we're going to have tonight and tomorrow, and maybe we can get back out moving on a regular basis. And finally, it's up to you and your healthcare team. And your healthcare team includes us, your colleagues here from Purdue, your doctor, your podiatrist, your ophthalmologist. You might be seeing an endocrinologist, the nursing staff. So it's you know, you've got a team with you, and always do remember that. Okay, Marilyn, you want to take us out on our last slide about SMART steps?
Well, it's that time again to think about a SMART step. And so if you are just joining us this evening, again, we're glad to have you. Maybe if this is your first time, then hopefully you got some ideas on things you could do for a SMART step this week. If you have been with us the last few weeks and you want to continue working on your goal, then that's great too. Again, when we're talking about SMART goals, we're looking for things that are specific. We're looking for things that are measurable, attainable, relevant, and then time bound. And so, as we've been talking, has anybody thought of one or something, one that they would like to share with their group? So I'll start you out, so maybe you can think. All right, so an example of a SMART goal that we talked about for this session was, it could be, I will use skim milk instead of 2% milk in my cereal for the next week. Would that apply to anybody? All right, I'll give you a couple more examples, so to give you time to maybe think or even jot it down. So another SMART step could include, I will replace ground beef with the ground turkey breast in at least one meal over the next week. Remember, we talked about those poultries are usually less fatty than the beef. You could even do one about, I will read food labels for sodium content of my favorite snacks before the next class. Or maybe you struggle with sugar. Maybe, you know, yours could be read the food label or sugar content for your favorite snack before the next class. So maybe we could also do one about, instead of using salt to flavor my food, I will try a new herb or spice before the next class. Or maybe you're not quite there yet. Maybe it could just be, I'll try a bite or two of my food before salting. Does anybody have one that they would like to share?
I will share that I will use skim milk in my coffee in the morning instead of half and half for the next week.
Sounds like a great one. Are you currently using creamer or?
Half and half.
Okay.
And I'm going to plan to walk during my lunch break at work.
Love that. It's not only good for your physical health, but good for your mental health, getting away from things.
I take a Tai Chi class twice a week on Zoom, and that is very helpful for the legs and that too. And it's not impacting my knees or anything. It's a very gentle class. But I will this week try to walk at least 3 days a week.
So let me throw a monkey wrench in here. What happens? I love your goal, but I just want to play devil's advocate for a second. What happens if we get that snow? What's your backup plan for walking?
I will be taking my Tai Chi class that day.
Okay. Could you walk in place? Walk inside?
Yes.
Okay.
I can walk in the house some.
We could even, and this is for everybody, kick it back old school and don't fast forward through your commercials or DVR. When the commercials come on, that'd be a great time to maybe walk in place, do some squats. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And
What is going on? And then I will swap out my Coke for more water.
I love that. Now, again, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. So what if your water gets boring? Sometimes if you're going from Coke to water, that's quite the switch. Do you have a plan? How can you get more water down?
Well, I usually add lemon juice to it to flavor it up. So
Okay.
therefore, and I like my water really icy cold with lemon in it. So that helps me out tremendously.
Have you ever tried mint?
A few times.
I like that. That might be something else, or even cucumber.
Yeah, I've done that. Yes, yes. The infused water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm just trying to think, because sometimes I try to drink water, but sometimes you need a little different. So wanted to give you some options.
More flavor.
Anybody else? I love these. You all have come a long way since week 1. Okay. Well, if you think of any, you feel free to put them in a chat, or you can email us too. Sometimes you might need an accountability buddy, and we can help you do that. So I think we're ready to share the video. Annette, were you going to try it, or did you want me to pull it up?
I will try. And if it doesn't work, then I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. And then Gail or Annette, do you mind to give a quick overview while she's getting that queued up about what you were doing in the video?
We made cranberry chicken chili, which is super easy. And every time that Annette and I have taught this class, it has been a fan favorite. It's been a class favorite every time. And it's a little bit different than, the barbecue sauce. So sometimes, we're like, oh, boneless, skinless chicken breast. Oh my, what are we going to do this time? We used allspice, cranberry sauce, a chili sauce. It's really quite delicious. And then the other one that I helped prepare was a Tuscan bean and tuna salad. And you're putting the canna lily beans together with some Italian dressing and white tuna, albacore tuna, and some vegetables. And it's really tasty as well. It kind of sounds
That's one of my
strange, you know.
favorites.
Yeah, it's really good. But sometimes people are going like, ooh, beans and tuna, but trust us, it's tasty.
And when you put that Italian seasoning on there, that's one of my favorites. And I like to put a little red onion. And if you garden, you can throw in like, I do half tomatoes sometimes, little cherry tomatoes.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to
Okay.
share the screen.
Well, welcome back to Harrison County Extension and Dining with Diabetes Lesson 3. We're excited to do our main dishes for you today, so we will have 2 demos. My partner and I, Gail, will do our Tuscan bean tuna salad, which may sound strange, it's absolutely delicious. And we're also going to do our chili cranberry chicken. So we'll start getting that ready right now. I've already taken a nonstick pan and gotten it warm. I used a tablespoon of oil and got that nice and warm. And I'm going to go ahead and sear these pieces of chicken. This was 3 pieces that I cut in half. And we're going to go ahead and put them in and start searing them. This will be nice and brown. And this is a really big pan, which helps spread them out so they don't steam. They sear if there's enough room between them to sear. And so what you'll want to do is leave the chicken on there long enough that it will actually automatically release itself once it has seared. You know, if you first put the meat on, it kind of want to gives you tug and doesn't want to come up and flip over, so you let it go ahead and self-release. It will be seared on one side, then we'll flip it over, and then we'll start putting the sauce on there. And the sauce sounds kind of crazy. I know people say, what? That doesn't sound right. Chili, cranberry chicken. This is always the favorite when we do these classes. So what I've done is whole cranberry sauce. And we have chili sauce. And so we start off with a half a cup of the chili sauce. So I'll go ahead and pour that in here while the chicken's cooking. Maybe I will. It's one of those hard to get started kind. And it's been in the refrigerator since there's a half a cup of the chili sauce. And then we're going to add a half a cup of the whole cranberry. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use this measuring cup because I want to make sure it's measured. Here. So it doesn't make very much, and you put that away in the freezer for another meal. Or if you double this recipe for a larger family. And then the next thing is 2 tablespoons orange marmalade. And like I said, we made this one time, and this one gentleman that took the class just raved about it. He made it for a picnic with the family group. He made it for a church group. Everywhere, and he said, you gotta bring that chicken. And nobody knew it was a healthy recipe that was healthy and good for diabetics. Okay, and so then you add 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground allspice. I like this particular set of measuring spoons because it actually does have a 1/8 on it. Level that off. And there's our allspice. And so all I'm going to do is just stir this up. And in fact, I think what I'll do is go ahead and use a little whisk to make sure it gets stirred up really fast. And it's hard to describe this. It's not sweet like the cranberry. It has that cranberry. It's got the chili, but it's just got that combination of flavors that really makes the chicken good. And so at this point, I'm going to put this back over here for the next recipe. And these as well. For that. And I'm going to check the chicken and see if it has seared. It has on that side. And I don't have it too high, I don't want to burn it, but you notice it's starting to get a little bit of brown there on the chicken. It starts to brown a little bit, then that's good. We'll let it go on that side for just a few minutes to try to keep getting it. And I think I might just go ahead and turn it up a little bit. Not quite behind that. And so maybe a medium heat, depending on your stove and how it works, whether you have electric or gas. And so what we're going to do is let that sit for a while. And then as soon as it's seared on that side, then we're going to pour the sauce on and simmer it. So while the chicken cooks, Gail is going to help me with the Tuscan tuna salad. It starts off with 1 can, and I use the solid white tuna. And then it says 1/3 cup of a low-fat Italian dressing, so I put that in there. And 1 can of cannellini beans that are drained. So we drained the tuna, we drained the beans, and you go ahead and put the beans in. Give that a stir. You can, how are beans good for tuna? But they just are. It's just a delicious recipe. I challenge you to try this. And for one thing, you're talking about tuna being a high-quality meat source because you're getting omega-3s from the fish, which makes tuna a nice thing to have a couple times a week to get your omega-3s. And then beans are so high in fiber and nutrients that they make a really good high-quality protein. They also give you a lot of other nutrients. And so basically, when we eat, we want to get as much nutrients per calorie or per spoonful of food that we eat as we can. So we want nutrient-dense food. And when you get the tuna and the beans, you're talking about 2 very nutrient-dense foods, which also will fill you up. And that's nice to get something that fills you up, and then you don't get so hungry between meals. And then the next thing we're going to add to that would be we're going to use 1/3 cup of pepper. Was it 1/3 cup of pepper?
2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons. Okay, so we
They
need 2
actually
tablespoons.
use half.
Okay,
green
half of
pepper.
the green pepper. Okay. So the only other 2 things you need to put in would be our pepper. I think it's 1/3 teaspoon.
Is 1/4.
1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And so we'll get that in there. Adds a little flavor. And Gail, you can tell them how much onion you need.
It'll be about 1/3 of a cup. Or actually, just some rings. This is really to make it pretty.
Yes, I like the red onion because it's very pretty, and when you put it with the dressing, that's a marinade type dressing, it kind of cuts the onion flavor down and makes it flavorful, but it's so much prettier than just a white onion, having pretty little rings of the red onion. And again, the dressing makes it delicious. And it's a lower fat, so you're getting some healthy fats in the tuna, and then you're getting a little bit lower fat, but you're still getting a vegetable fat. It's not a saturated fat. And so this is a meal that's low in saturated fat, it's high in nutrients, and it makes a great summer salad because you can make this, put it in the fridge, cover it up, put it in the fridge, and get it good and cold, and it is absolutely delicious. You can use it as your main course, or you can use it as a side. It really makes a nice salad option for folks. You know, there's some people who don't really like lettuce salads, or they don't like eating lettuce for some reason, or they can't. And this way they can still have a summer salad. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on lettuce. And sometimes I like lettuce salads, but it's nice to have something different now and then. And so this tuna salad is a little bit different. And as you can see, all it takes is a little bit of cutting up and for a very short time, and you have your salad done. And so what Gail's going to do is go ahead and put some up on this plate that she has garnished with a little cilantro. You can use cilantro, you can use parsley. Again, you can set it on a bed of romaine lettuce or good lettuce, leaf lettuce, whatever you would like. You could serve it over a cut tomato. You can serve it with any other vegetables, but this gives you a nice little dish of tasty salad that's quick and easy for the summer. So this is in your packet of recipes that you have that were mailed to you. And it is absolutely delicious, and you see how easy it is. And so if we go back to our, have to cook a little bit more, the chicken, it still needs a little bit more cooking, I think, before putting on the, what I did was I kept the burner pretty low because I didn't want to burn it. But I think I'm going to turn the burner up a little bit at this point to try to get it cooking a little bit faster. Like I said, I like the bigger pan because you can move them around and get plenty of room between them. And so, and you can see it's a quick cleanup too because it's almost all cleaned up already. And then moving on to our chicken. Oh, we're getting some nice brown there. You should have smell-o-vision because even the tuna salad smells good. I've turned the chicken up here so we can get it going a little bit faster for you. But you can see it simmering and kind of cooking here in this little dab of oil. It only took a tablespoon for the whole thing. So it's not a very heavily oiled chicken. And another thing about the orange marmalade, we happen to pick just a brand up at the store. You can actually get marmalades that are low in sugar, that have less sugar in them if you want to cut back a little bit on sugar that way as well.
Okay, here we go. Try to get some tuna in there.
The peppers. And you could also use red peppers, yellow peppers. You can
that'd be beautiful.
Really pretty with other colors. Okay. The taste test is good. All right. All right, so at this point, I think I'm going to go ahead because we don't want to take too much time watching this chicken brown. I'm going to go ahead and pour the sauce on the chicken. You can see this one recipe makes quite a bit of sauce that we will want to cook into this chicken. You just leave it uncovered, simmering nicely over the burner until the chicken is done. And one thing that you'll want to do, which I will show you as it gets done, is to test it with a meat thermometer. Make sure your chicken is cooked all the way through. Hi, welcome back. We have been waiting for our chicken to get done. And now we have our chicken done, and we're going to show you how the sauce thickens up and just gets nice and caramelized at the bottom of the pan, but it's not sticking to the pan. And we've got our chicken, and I've been checking them, and it's something you need to do. That this is very inexpensive to get, but you need to do this with your meats. You need to use a thermometer. Now, if you have a probe thermometer that goes in about that deep, that's great for chicken. But I don't have a probe thermometer, so I'm using the bimetallic stem thermometer. And with this one, since you can't go, you're going to go up to the dimple on here, you just do it horizontally. And you go ahead, I know it's done, it's falling apart. But you go into the chicken up to the dimple and watch for the, on the thermometer, if you watch it keep going up, you always want to get your chicken to 165 or higher. And so we're getting these pieces up to 165. It's almost 160, I think we're about getting there. This was at 160. We'll see if this one's ready. Yes, this one is at 165. So we have that one ready. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the burner off. And we'll test this one more time and see if we're up to 165. I do this at home. I do this with every meal and all the meats that I do because the last thing you want to do is get a foodborne illness. And so for food safety, you're always going to want to make sure that when you're messing with chicken, that you're washing your hands and utensils and anything that touches the raw chicken very thoroughly. And then you also want to make sure that you're getting your meat's cooked, the chicken goes to 165. And then we take this lovely juice. Do this with chicken, so it's a low fat. You can do this with thighs, but thighs have a little bit more calories because they have more fat within the meat muscle. So you can do thighs, but the recipe calls for breast because it is lower in fat. And lowering the saturated fat will help you control your cholesterol levels and such. And so you can see you have this lovely sauced, delicious chicken. And I will go ahead and take a piece here and tear it open for you to see. Maybe. Try not to splatter the juice. But you can see you have a lovely white meat chicken and this delicious sauce. And like I said, for those that have made this, it has become a big hit. So there is our chili cranberry chicken. And again, try the tuna recipe and try the chicken recipe. We think that you'll really like them. They're a big hit with most people that try them. So we thank you today for being with us for part 3 of Dining with Diabetes, where we had our main dishes. So we had the Tuscan bean, tuna, and we had our chili cranberry chicken. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was great. And it worked. Yay. That was wonderful. Anybody have any questions or comments? I was looking through some of the main dish recipes and recalling some of my other favorites. I'm a foodie. Turkey chili Joe, pretty good. There's a stir fry. There are actually a couple stir fry recipes in here. I mentioned that lemony steamed fish. We prepared that chili cranberry chicken. Oh my goodness, what else? Oh, Annette, you and I have done so many different recipes that are so good. We've done the salmon patties before.
I'll also tell you that I thought that packet fish was delicious with the dill and the lemon and the codfish. That was really good.
Oh, melts in your mouth. That's all I can say. It was divine. And I think you noticed in the pan as Annette was preparing the chicken, the size of the chicken breast. And I know you cut those in half. And I remember you said you could have maybe horizontally, cut them as well because they were so thick.
Yeah, I was concerned about them, cooking without drying out, but they seem to do okay.
Yeah. Oh, it was excellent. Anybody have any questions about today's program or the recipes? Or maybe you've been inspired to have a new SMART goal. Let's see. I try to limit meals to 15 grams of carb. Okay, so you're right. That's not enough to fill you up. Your body's talking to you there. Limit meals to 15 grams of carb. That's darn low. 8 ounces of milk, like a cup of skim milk, is going to have 12 grams of carb. So that's just not enough fuel. So you're running on empty.
For those of you that go ahead and try the recipes in any of the 4 lessons, you're welcome to go ahead and email us and let us know what you think about the recipes, if you liked them or you didn't like them, or what you thought about them, and that gives us more feedback for the future. So we'd appreciate any kind of feedback we can get.
Yeah, I see your message, Peggy, about Carb Master at Kroger. Yes. Yes, there's the yogurt, the ice cream, the milk. Yeah. They're really a nice way to, yes, incorporate carbs, but maybe you're not eating enough carbohydrates. It's I can't really tell you, you know, how many grams of carbs you should really have. You know, you do monitor your blood glucose levels on a regular basis, and you need to be seeing how you're doing with that, making sure you're in the appropriate ranges for you. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments they want to make before we conclude this evening?
As educators, we all want to thank you for taking this class and participating.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you all. And stay warm. It's getting cold out there.